University, studying film and television production. He was born in Houston, Texas to Nigerian parents, but presently live in Los Angeles. In his most recent short film, Solomon explores the issue of female genital mutilation and cultural clashes. Here's my conversation with Solomon. Give us an overview of your film Joy.
Joy is a short film. The story is about a Nigerian woman who tries to convince her husband not to circumcise their 10-year-old daughter.
Okay.
And this all takes place in America. So the story is about cultural clashes, about a ritual that the family brought from their homeland, and they want to pass it down to their daughter versus assimilating to a new culture.
Okay. So and that's basically the life of many immigrants, whether it's being in America or in the UK. It's just,
Yes.
yeah, we carry all of that with us when we come to a new place.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this particular film, with the subject FGM, how did you come up with this idea to create?
Well, I started by wanting to make a story about culture clashes, and I've known about the FGM issue for a while now. I just kind of married the two themes together. I was thinking to myself, what could I use as like a vehicle for this culture clash story? Because I was looking at my life. I'm a first generation American, and I was just going through the things that my parents passed on to me versus the things that they didn't. And I'm the last of four siblings. So my older sisters, they have a lot more of the culture than I do. And I was wondering to myself, why is that? Did my parents get bored of passing down my heritage, or was it like, did they fully assimilate to the culture? So with exploring those themes, that's how the story kind of began. And then I thought it might be a good way to shed some light on FGM as well.
Okay. So just explain to me when you first heard about FGM itself, because I know that you did mention that you're first generation Nigerian. There are lots of traditional practices that Africans and particularly Nigerians have. So how did you first hear about FGM?
I first heard about it. Well, it was just through research. So I researched. I was just researching things in general, and then FGM popped up, and then so that was just like a one glance over. But then when I was an undergrad, a professor brought it to my attention again. He read a book. I forget the name of the book, but he read a book about FGM, and we had a discussion about it. It was like real quick, and then so from that, that was kind of like maybe the first seed of what joy was going to be, was when we had that discussion. And then many years passed, and then I came back to that thought, and then from there I just went on like a rampage of research, from talking to my parents, talking to different people who might have experienced FGM, and just researching online. So like that's how the idea came to my mind. But it started kind of basically from a conversation I had with my college professor.
Okay, wow, that's great. So, being that you had the chance to speak to your parents, do you know anyone in particular who've experienced FGM?
I don't have anyone personal to me, but I did meet a woman when I went to Nigeria last year who was circumcised, and she just well, this is after I made the film,
Okay.
and she just kind of thanked me for making a film and telling a story about that, and it was similar to like the things that she experienced. So that was one. And then when doing research in the beginning, I talked to a few people who knew about the subject well but weren't actually circumcised.
Okay. Wow, that's excellent. Um, with the title Joy, and the subject, FGM, and the title of your film is Joy. And FGM is a very harsh topic or subject. Why did you name this particular film Joy?
It was named like something silly. I forget what the name was. But then when I finally named the little girl, that's how the name of the film began. So I named her Joy, and I was like, and the reason why I named her Joy is because the whole concept was that little girl was the only joy in the mother's life. So I imagine, because the whole backstory for the mother character is that she lost 2 kids before her due to FGM. She had some stillbirths.
Right.
And so when she was finally able to have Joy, and Joy, grew up to a little girl, I just imagine that the mother would name her Joy because, that's like her pride and joy.
Right.
And so just with that thought floating in my head, I named the film Joy. I wasn't trying to be ironic with the name of the film and then the subject matter. It was just kind of happenstance that it was able to tie in like that.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So let's focus on the woman story. Her name is Femi. And particularly her character, her mannerism. And when I watched the film, I noticed that she exemplified what a typical Nigerian woman is, or a typical African woman: submissive, caring, taking care of her family. How were you able to capture such depth with this particular character?
I grew up around a lot of Nigerian women, so it's something that I probably could have directed that movie in my sleep just because I knew the character so well, or I knew how that type of woman was so well. My mother was a good example. My aunts, just people around my community. I grew up in Houston, which is like a big central location for Nigerians whenever they come to the U.S. So I've seen a lot of these type of women. And then the actress, Shope, she's also a Nigerian woman, so she added a lot of the details in it herself. So I guess we kind of were seeing eye to eye when forming her character. I wanted it to be very authentic to the culture. I wanted it to be a true representation of of what this actually is. I don't want anyone to watch the film and say that this is off or this is a false representation of who we are. So that was a detail that I was pushing through from the beginning, even in the script writing phase. Like the details in her performance are also listed in the script. Oh, wow. So that was something that we were just pushing from the beginning.
And you knew exactly what you wanted because that's pretty much what the outcome was. That's excellent. So with FGM, one of the reasons why it's done. I mean, there's several reasons depending on what you read or who you speak to. But in my opinion, one of the reasons why it's done is to please the men. And in many countries, like let's say Somalia, for example, it's usually performed by women. And so in Nigeria, I believe it's also performed by a particular group of women. They come to the home and they, perform it. And depending on what culture you're from, it usually happens, a week when a child is a week old to about 15 years of age. So Joy, which is the main character in your film, fall under that age group. So, but in your film, interestingly, the male character, what's his name? Gabriel. Yes. He took it upon himself to actually perform the circumcision himself. So why did you decide that he do the circumcision by himself?
For the character Gabriel, he decides to do it because his wife simply wouldn't, and he knew that. Like I guess he was reading that in her. Because, like you said, it's a woman's responsibility. Right. So, like, there's a line in the movie where he says, just because you're failing as a woman doesn't mean my daughter has to. And so that's basically him saying that since you're not going to do this, I'm going to make sure my daughter grows up right and is a virtuous woman, or whatever type of stigma he put on female circumcision to make it seem that his daughter needs this practice. So that was the whole tension that was kind of driving the whole movie, is because like he sees his wife as failing in her womanly duties, so he has to take it upon himself because of course they're living in a new land where he doesn't have access to like maybe his grandmother or his mother or like other women who could possibly do this. So it's like it's only up to him if he wants this his culture to live through his daughter.
Right. Wow. That's a great way to see it as well. Wow. Okay, so the film is currently shown on HBO. So how can those who don't have access to HBO see this film? So meaning people in Africa particularly.
Well, the film is played in a bunch of festivals since it premiered in New York at the HBO festival.
Right.
I'm actually going to Egypt tomorrow to show the film there. I'll be in Egypt for about 10 days, and it's gonna play there. As far as like other people seeing it who don't have HBO, I have to wait 2 years because I sold the licensing rights to HBO when I made that deal. So I have to wait 2 years for me to get those rights back before I can show it on another platform. So my hope is that once it runs its course on HBO, I can possibly get it on other platforms so more and more people can see it, because I know it's of high interest right now. So my hope is to make it available to like all who want to see it. So I've been getting contacts from people from all over the world who message me and say, hey, I want to show it for this group, or hey, I want to do this with it. And I've been openly allowing people to screen it at for any opportunity that they wish to do that.
Wow. Okay, so in a couple of years we should see it on a different platform then, besides HBO. Okay. So with the film, what do you hope that your audience get from watching this film?
My main hope was I wanted people to kind of look within themselves to see, what do they pass to their children, or is the cultural elements that they're passing down to the next generation, is it truly helpful, or is it just something that they're pushing? Like if you look at American politics, there's a lot of things that the old generation is still trying to hold on to and force the younger generation to do. So it can translate to like a bunch of different things.
Okay.
For me, it's culture. For other people, it's something else. And then I wanted people to look at how we treat our women. Nigerians or Africans have a way of dealing with women. Like you see often the submissive wife and the wife's role in a Nigerian home is to serve the man. But then if you look at American culture, often you have women as like
a lot more open.
Pleasure.
Yes.
What is that?
A lot more open. They're not submissive. They have a lot of freedom in terms of how they live their life and decisions they make about themselves.
Yeah. So that, and then in this culture too, we have a way of controlling women that is not maybe as overt as female circumcision, but there's other things. I mean, now with the equal rights movement and the women, all that type of stuff, we're kind of coming out of that. But there's a history of how men used to control the women in this society too. So it's something that's universal that I just wanted to shed light on.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with me. This is indeed an amazing subject for me.
And thank you for sharing your story as well.
You're welcome.